Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Alright, it's time for another walkabout. See what's going on in Krishna's garden. Over here on the left we got 4 dahlias that are budding out, ready to produce. Here we have some wine barrels, as they call them, filled with lettuce and tomatoes. And over here on this one, these 2 big green ones are parsley plants that overwintered. Not parsley, parsnips. So we'll get some big parsnip roots out of that. This is used for artiques, these marigolds. A couple of raised beds here. These are full of tomatoes, heirloom tomatoes. Got about 30 plants here. Some radishes squeezed in between. I want to step back here and show you something. There's this huge rose bush is called Cecile Brunner, and it's just so fragrant. When you pass through here, you get the smell from that one and this one over here. This one's called Darlow's Enigma. It came from the Willamette Valley down in Oregon. Super fragrant. So you can see here how many flowers are on this bush, and it's one of Krishna's blessings among many others. Alright, we'll take a quick walk around here, starting over here in Garden 3, but first we'll take a look at the redone blueberry cage. There were so many birds getting in this thing. I had to make a door for this thing, and you can see here it's covered with bird netting and black plastic along the outside edge with 1x4 wood to keep it in place, and then electrical conduit that holds the mesh down on the ground. So the plan is keep the birds out. We'll see what happens. Over here we got the potatoes. I think there's a couple hundred potato plants in here. These are Purple Majesty, Yukon Golds, Yellow Fins, Red Chieftains, and this morning I just brought 10 gallons of water out with probably a quart of molasses in each 5-gallon bucket. You mix it up and you pour it on the plants, and it's supposed to help repel insects. So over here we've got 5 rows. That's going to be beans, pole beans. You can see over here on the far row, they're just starting to come up. And this is one of our grains, these beans. Over here we've got 16 rows of corn. Doesn't look like much now, but in a couple months, early August, we'll be eating corn on the cob every day. And by the way, you can see this field out here. This usually gets cut by one of the farmers and they feed the grass to the cows, but they haven't done it yet. So in this patch, these are all brassicas. Over here we've got cabbage, purple cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and 2 kinds of cauliflower, the white kind, snow crown, and the purple ones. And the fruit teas are doing nicely again. This one here is called akane. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Covered with apples. This one here is called Enterprise. I'm not sure what's wrong with this tree. I think it's got some diseases. And over here, just as a tip, if anybody wants to grow apples without worms, you get these yellow. This is just some kind of a poster I got at Home Depot, and I cut it into pieces, yellow cards, and glue these red apples, or half apple. It's a piece of plastic. It looks like an apple, and you put some sticky glue on it. You paste it on, and the bugs go to those things instead of the apples. This pear tree is covered with pears. You can see there. It's called rescue pear. Over here, this is called a Chehalis apple. So I planted all these apple trees. There's 8 of them here. We actually have 7 that we harvest, and then the 8th one down the road there on the end of the property. You can't see it from here. It's just covered with apples, and we feed those apples to the cows across the road. This one here is called Coxpickman Orange. This is one of the sweetest apples in the world, and orchardists graft off of the roots. In this little hoop house thing for the blueberries, I think there's 18 or 20 blueberry plants, and I think there's 4 different kinds, and they ripen at different times. So we have quite a lengthy period to pick blueberries, and we eat them fresh, and then what we don't, we freeze them. Over here is 3 kinds of kale: red boar kale, winter kale, and Siberian dwarf kale. Down here is parsnips that I hope will grow. And here, you can't see much as this looks like dirt, but the first thing that came up was the turnips and the radishes. I have 3 rows of carrots, 2 kinds of beets, cilantro, and rutabagas, and I think that's it. So we'll take a look over here now in this hoop house. This is basically all peppers, with the exception of 3 eggplants on the left. Banana peppers, bell peppers, and 3 Thai peppers, which are super hot. They're tiny little peppers, and we grow them mostly for grinding into powder. So when my wife makes bread, she puts like a teaspoon or half a teaspoon of cayenne ground up pepper inside, or in each loaf of bread, which of course is good for your heart. So in here, the greenhouse, we've got about 80 tomato plants, heirloom tomatoes. As you can see, they're all doing nicely. And all these pots are along the row here. These are banana peppers. Here's a couple of basils. And some more, what's left of the Thai peppers. I'm running out of space where to put them. Over here on these steel meshes is sweet peas. You can see they're flowering nicely. They're going to be coming up. This plant here with all the white flowers is a coriander that overwintered. So I'm going to let this go into seed. And then when the plant dies back, harvest the seed and grind it up and use it for cooking. More tomatoes, more peppers. So all these in here, everything in here basically, except for a few plants, is from seed. All these tomato plants. You know, when we find a good-sized tomato during the summer, we just save some of the pulp, and there's like hundreds of seeds. Put it on a paper towel and then stick it away, let it dry, and then come springtime, we bring all these seeds out and get them going. So over here in these 2 gardens is the winter squash. Winter squash and summer squash. Here on this mesh is going to be more sweet peas. We got zucchini coming out here, 2 or 3 kinds. Patty pans, but mostly these are large winter squash gourds, like Blue Hubbard's sweet meat they call it, butternut delicata. All kinds of good stuff. And over here is the compost bins. I just cleaned those out. A couple more apple trees. This is a Fuji. This one's covered with apples. That one over there is a Gaura. So the squash is doing okay. This garden here, because of all the rain we've had this year, I had to replant this thing twice. Everything had to come out of this. It was already up about the same size it is, but there were so many weeds and grass growing here. I just basically, myself and another devotee, we pulled them out, rototilled it, graked it out, and then replanted them. So you can see these plants here on the left that were replanted, they don't look as good as these ones on the right that weren't messed with. So when you mess with something, you retard the growth. They'll both produce squash, but these ones on the right will produce them first. These here, this came out of the compost bin. It's some kind of squash seed. We don't know what they are. And here is basil. There's a couple dozen basil plants. Some of Krishna's flowers. And I think that's probably about enough for now. Sun's coming out. I got more work to do. Hare Krishna.